WNST. It's House in Baltimore, and here with the Steelers and the Ravens getting together. This is one of our defending champions as the Buccos roll down here to Baltimore for a rare battle with the Orioles at Camden Yards. Just a couple of days and a couple of quick games. Jeff Hathorn is the sports director at 93.7 The Fan in the Berg at KDKA, one of the few stations east of the Mississippi that has the K signal because they've been there longer than anyone else, and certainly my disdain for the Pirates probably goes back further than anyone else because I'm a child of 1979, Jeff Hathorn, and you know that these Baltimore-Pittsburgh wars, they began back in the 70s. You are aware of that.
Yes, I am. I do remember. That's one of my first memories. I'm sorry. I had the other team.
You had a good one. Yeah. You get along with Burt Blyleven these days. I don't.
Well, I don't know about that. That's not a big list of people that get along with Burt Blyleven. But yeah, that was a great series. And if you're younger, didn't see it, check it out because that was. Don't
check it out. You don't want to go watch it. You don't want to see any. You especially don't want to see the ending of it. If you stop it right around Game 5, things are good, But
they were good for you guys, then absolutely.
But these teams don't get together much, right? And whatever memories you have of Pirates and Orioles really is about 79. It's not about the handful of times we've gotten together. I know for a lot of Baltimore people, it was fun to go up there for a couple of days because you have a beautiful ballpark up there in the summertime. But this is a little weird getting together, and we don't know much about the Pirates. I'm learning as I go. I am sort of stunned that McCutchen has fallen from grace the way he has.
And actually, he's been hot. He was down below 200. I mean, he struggled at the start of last season. He came out in spring. He was ticked off because they had moved him to right field. And, when you're a center fielder, you're the man. When you get moved to right, there's a stigmatism that goes with that. And he was a little upset with that, but he accepted it. And then he came out and said, I'm going to have this huge start, and he started really bad. And then they moved him down to the 6th hole in the lineup, and ever since then he's batting .394. So for whatever reason, he's got it going, but it's not the same guy. He's not the MVP of the league that a lot of people may remember. And they're a team trying to find themselves in a really surprisingly bad, at least right now, bad NL Central.
In the case of them being bad or good, I think everybody thought the Cubs would be 20 games over 500 now, and they're not. So certainly the Pirates are very much in this thing, despite the deficiencies they have. And I've looked up and down the roster, and I'm a little shocked that some of the pitching's gotten away. But we're going to see Ivan Nova. He's been as good as it gets for you guys. Much like for us, Wade Miley's been far better than we thought he could be over the first 60 days.
It's funny how it happens. A new home for somebody can make a world of difference. You guys saw Ivan Nova when he was with the Yankees. He's a guy who tells us that he didn't really like the pressure, that there were some things there that he didn't like about New York. Not that he had issues personally with that team or with the people on the team, but he got a new lease on life, and the guy just throws strikes. The guys behind him love him because he doesn't walk anybody, and he puts balls in play, so the guys are active. He doesn't have incredible stuff. He just has pinpoint control. And for baseball fans that like quicker games or don't like guys that slow things down, you're going to love Ivan Nova if you don't remember him because he just comes right at you and he works quickly. And he's been a key for the Pirates. During his time, he's been as good as they've had.
Well, the bottom of the rotation's been a mess with Cole and Glasnow. We're going to see Cole on Wednesday night. I know Glasnow has the high ceiling. He's the big guy, the Randy Johnson kind of guy. But when guys start rolling in here in June, especially in the National League with ERAs above 6, wow, right? I mean, that speaks volumes as to how they're 5 games under 500 right now.
And it's interesting. Cole is a guy who's really discovered some of his stuff this year, but I think that's hurt him. He gets revved up. He gets a little emotional in games, and he'll hit 98 on the gun, but he'll overthrow at times, and that's been his downfall. He tries too hard. He's trying to make an impact and trying to make an impression instead of pitch. And I think sometimes he throws more to look at, not that he's spinning around immediately and looking at the gun, but he's trying to get that more than he is to just pitch. And the other thing is he's the Pirates 5 guy. So at best, he's going to be a 500 pitcher. So he's, the bottom of that rotation. But they could have used a little better from him, considering the struggles they've gotten from a guy in Glasnow who's who just mowed down AAA and is having all kinds of issues in the National League.
Jeff Hathorn is the sports director at 93.7 The Fan. I almost called you the PD, but I'll get straight on that. He is Jay Hathorn out on Twitter as well with the Family Guy little motif, JHATHHORN, and KDKA.com as well. Boy, the Marte thing is disappointing, and I can't imagine the fans there have gone well with it. I know the players are probably saying the right things, and Clint Hurdle and whatnot, but what a disappointing thing for him. You got the Korean kid that can't stop drinking and driving over in Korea. Now he can't get a visa to get into the country to play Major League Baseball. It's been an unfortunate set of circumstances, and I know we talk so much about character issues with football, and I'm sure up there you've had your Martavis Bryant issues and Antonio Bryant, Le'Veon Bell, and all the blunt, all the things that have gone on off the field and on the field. But boy, then baseball, we don't really hear much about character issues or guys doing stupid stuff that really wind up costing themselves and their team the portion of the season. The real story in Pittsburgh isn't a lot of these other guys. It's the guys that aren't there, right?
Yeah, it's killer, too, because those are two of your power guys. Gung was going to be your cleanup hitter, and Marte is the guy who was an all-star and a Gold Glove defender. What Marte did really set them back because it was just a selfish, stupid move. What Gung did is even worse because he put people's lives in danger. I mean, what Marte did, he hurt himself, and he's paying for it. What Gung did could have hurt other people, and it's just stupid. And the fact that it's in another country brings a whole new series of red tape, which is why he hasn't been around. But when you have a team with a payroll like the Pirates at around $100 million, they don't have the depth to make up for it. You have a David Freese, and that's nice. But now you're playing a lot of John Jaso. You're trying to find spots. You're moving Josh Harrison all around the lineup and all around the field more so than the lineup because you're trying to find a spot. So you're playing an Adam Frazier who's a rookie. I mean, they felt good about where that team was heading into spring training, assuming they had those two guys, feeling they might be able to handle an injury or two. But when you take those two bats out of the lineup, you see some of the offensive inconsistencies that they've had, and it's killed them because early they had some good pitching performances. Garrett Cole's had a number of games that he's lost where he's pitched really well and hasn't gotten any run support. And a lot of that is because of these two guys. And you don't want to point them all and have scapegoats, but for the Pirates, those two guys really are.
They're going to bust this thing up. I mean, a couple of games out of first place now. You look at it and you say, well, how could they win and how would they be able to compete if they somehow got into this thing in September? And I know every team around 500 believes they're in it with the double wild card system now. And I think everybody's waiting for the Cubs to go on one of those 20-5 runs and just kind of run away from everybody. But it hasn't happened yet. Meanwhile, the Brewers are chugging along. But, the Pirates would be one of those teams if they busted this thing up. Their fan base probably would accept that. And given what they have with McCutchen and with Nova and some of these other guys, they might get back a wheelbarrow full of prospects.
And that's how they have to operate. I mean, their owner is very clear that he's never going to be in a deficit situation, even to win a world championship. He's only going to spend so much. The guy's in the newspaper business, so I mean, he's not making a ton of money elsewhere. So he's looking to make money out of baseball. So he's not going to make those deals. So depending on where the Pirates are and how far out they are, and I'm one of those guys that thinks the Cubs are going to make a run and separate themselves from the rest of the team in the NL Central. And if that happens, Tony Watson, their closer, is on the market. Possibly Garrett Cole is on the market, and they're praying that McCutchen has a good month here to get himself back in the conversation so they could trade him as well. It could be a complete overhaul. In fact, two of the faces of the franchise where McCutchen and Cole could be guys that go. And if they make the right deals, then they put themselves right back in it in 2 years.
You're bracing for that and expecting that, and the fans are okay with that, right?
Some aren't. Some are frustrated. Some thought that, hey, they should have done more after the third time in the postseason. You've got a core, build on it. Spend money to make money, but that's not this ownership group. They're not going to do that. And I think the realistic fans are coming to accept that, especially with the way the season has gone so far. I mean, Watson's a definite. He's gone. The other two, it's just a matter of what's their value and what kind of deal is out there for them.
He is Jeff Hathorn. He's at 93.7 The Fan up in Pittsburgh at KDKA.com. You can follow him out on Twitter at jhathorn as well. And, meantime, I would be remiss if I didn't have a little Steeler conversation with you, and certainly letting you know that everyone here in the disappointed Caps fan base is hating on you guys right now, rooting for the Nashville Predators. I got my Predators jersey right over here behind my shoulder right now, so I'm trying to put a whammy on you in that. But, I'm not betting against the Penguins. They've really shown themselves to be a franchise and a roster full of guys with a hell of a lot of moxie, man.
I tell you what, they have a hell of a head coach, and I think it starts there for this team. He's a guy who makes you believe. He has a lot of confidence, and they made some good moves. I mean, let's face it, in this type of league, NFL, NHL is perfect for Pittsburgh because it's got a salary cap. They can compete with the big money guys. If they didn't, they wouldn't be able to. But they're able to manage that cap really well. They've made some wise decisions, and let's be real too. They got lucky. They got the drop when they were able to get Sidney Crosby, and when they got the second pick in the draft, they were able to get Evgeny Malkin behind Ovechkin. That's pretty good fortune if you're a franchise. I think you're going to see a team like Edmonton start to build because they got some good young guys. Well, the Penguins were that 10 years ago, and they continued to build. They had some playoff disappointments. But they've got a couple of good leaders and guys that, in other drafts, it wouldn't have been those two guys. So I think Penguin fans realize how lucky they are.
Well, around here, we're licking our wounds from last week with the Tavon Young injury. We're licking our wounds from the Dennis Pitta injury. I spent 3 periods watching hockey on the glass with Mike Tomlin a couple of weeks ago. I didn't talk a lot of football with him, and we didn't talk, we spent 2% of our time talking about the Ravens and the Steelers. But the one thing he pointed out, he loved Tavon Young, and he said, man, that nickel corner that they drafted last year, a heck of a football player, just offered that to me, and now that's one thing you guys are not going to have to worry about anymore. We're getting injured. We're getting banged up in early June. It is it's quite disheartening around here.
Yeah, that's horrible, really, because these guys are out there. They're out. It's football in shorts. It's not real football. They're trying to get some work in and have these type of injuries. Listen, Pittsburgh fans may for a second revel in injuries. They want to see best on best. I mean, they get into those games, and that's a shame, especially with what's going on at tight end position. Man, Pitta, good dude, and that's a shame to have an injury like that. And those, it's one thing to get injured in a game, but man, when you get injured in practice in shorts, that's real tough.
Inspired by the Steelers offseason, or are you wait and see on it? I mean, I think it's pretty clear that on paper they're the best team in the division, and certainly the Bengals feel like they've taken 2 steps back, even if the Ravens have maybe taken 1.
I think the Steelers, they didn't need to do much. I mean, they had their whole offensive line. It's a little disappointing with Darius Green, who was last year's big free agent signing, was released because they have a hole in the tight end position. Not that I'm, again, speaking of the tight end position to somebody from Baltimore, so I get the deal. But they've got a couple of young guys that they like, that they think can grow into something. And defensively, I don't know what T.J. Watt is. He's only played defense for a little bit in his career. He's got good pedigree because of his brother, but I don't know if TJ can play the position. James Harrison is back for another year. They've got this young secondary they believe in. They think a year of experience, they're going to be better. It'll be interesting because they don't have every piece of the puzzle, but they've got a few, and it's going to be another fun year. I mean, it sets up, at least at the start, where I think you're right. I think they're the favorite, but I never count out what Harbaugh can do in Baltimore, and there's still time to find a piece or two if you have to lose Pitta for not just the season, but the rest of his career.
Well, the one thing I kept hearing about when I was up there for games 3 and 4, and I did spend 5 days in Pittsburgh now so far this spring, which is 5 days more than I usually spend. But I made 2 trips up there in the same week, and all I could hear about with the Steelers is they drafted a snapper, they drafted a long snapper. Everybody was going crazy about that after the draft.
Yeah, Colton Holba, and this was after they had signed their long snapper, Greg Warren, to an extension. Greg Warren was one of those guys who've been around for a couple of Super Bowls, and yeah, you don't hear of that. I mean, teams so rarely draft a long snapper.
We drafted one 18 years ago. We drafted Joe Maisi. It didn't last long.
Yeah, I don't get it, especially when there were need positions, and they did end up signing a rookie free agent tight end, but there was a guy from in town who was from the area who was out there available, and there was another kid from Pitt that people wanted them to pick. So, I don't get drafting a long snapper. They must have thought that somebody really wanted this guy and was going to take him, or they weren't going to be able to sign him as a free agent. I mean, I guess if he comes in and plays 10, 12 years, then they got what they wanted out of a 6th-round pick. But, yeah, that got a lot of heat up here.
All right, so you clearing the way down there for a parade later on this week, or what's going on? I mean, feeling is they should win and you should have a parade. I would think there would be massive disappointment if not. And again, the Penguins. To me, I was blown away by what a big brand they were. You know, I mean, I really sense my wife works for a major telecom. We went to her branch office in Pittsburgh. Dude, the whole office was in black. I mean, the whole city was in black and gold. I can't imagine the disappointment if this thing goes the other way this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of love for the hockey team. Winning does that, but they also have some charismatic young stars where you could point to and people get behind. And young people really flock to these games. I mean, you get thousands of kids, college-age kids, high school kids that come down and watch it on a big screen outside. They have no intention of going to the game. It's a football-type atmosphere. Of course, they have that in Nashville and a couple of other cities where you have that feeling around the game and a lot of young fans, and I think that's what gets it going. It's kind of like you look at the Steelers as everybody. You look at the Penguins as the young peoples, and the Pirates are more the old school people.
Hey, man, always a pleasure to visit with you. I'm sure our paths will cross again here. Maybe the cup will runneth over. I don't watch your parades. You know that, right? You, Cleveland, all. When you guys went Boston, I don't watch. You know, I tell Tomlin all the time, did you ever touch the trophy? Because I never saw a picture of it. I'm unaware. But we'll continue the hate back and forth and stop off in Breezewood and Somerset on the way. It's always great to visit with you. And we'll renew this thing about 3rd week of September. How about that?
All right. Enjoy the next couple of days with the Pirates.
We will. Yins and that coming down here. I know that. So we'll renew that whole 79 thing, try to have some fun. We'll send everybody out to KDKA as well as at Jay Hathorn out on Twitter to find Jeff Hathorn. Thanks for coming on, bro. See you.
I enjoyed always.
You got it. Sports Director up at 93.7 The Fan in the Berg with Yins and Nat. You can find me out in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world, even in Pittsburgh. They don't block us there. We're from Pittsburgh, not Paris or something like that. But had a good time up there last month, especially when the Caps were winning the games. It was no fun losing games up there, but I could say that about the Steelers and the Ravens as well. But thank God we have Pittsburgh to kick around here. I mean, what are we going to do, hate on New York and Boston? Let's bring Pittsburgh in. We'll see how it goes here for a couple days this week as the Pirates and the Orioles have an all-too-rare series here at Camden Yards. You can also find everything we do in the morning newspaper. We deliver the WNST morning newspaper to your email inbox digitally. It's free of charge. It's all powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get into bikini shape now that the weather has started to agree with us as well. And if there's any breaking news, as there's been with the Ravens with all the bad news and the signings earlier this week, you'll get it all first on the WNST text service. That is all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And Dennis will be here on Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5. That is the SSV on WNST. You can find me anytime, anywhere, out on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. I've been getting a little bit more political because I'm getting a little more pissed off, quite frankly, as we all should be as Americans, in my opinion. But that's my social media. But in the meantime, you can always find us broadcasting sports right here on Facebook Live as well as on our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.